Welcome to Beyond the Call podcast, where we tell the stories of those people behind the jobs we rely on. We go into the good, the bad and the ugly, and we shine a light in what can be a dark place. Just a warning, the content can be graphic and distressing, so please use your discretion. Please like and subscribe on your podcast platform and our social media. And if you have feedback, I read every single one. Let's get on to this episode of Beyond the Call.
G'day everyone, welcome back here to Beyond the Call podcast. Today it is my pleasure to have on Phil Thompson. Phil Thompson is actually my local federal member. He's the member for Herbert, and before that he was in the Army, and we're going to go through his story. So Phil was born in Armidale, so the most important question, who do you go for in state of origin?
Obviously Queensland. Mate, I thought I'm not supposed to talk about being born in Armidale. I've got a reputation to maintain. You throwing me under the bus?
Well, we've had to get that, otherwise we may not be able to continue this conversation if you went for the wrong answer there. So at 17, you joined the Army, and you went to, you ended up up in Townsville, and you've been in Townsville ever since pretty much, have you?
Yep. So about 19 years.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So in 2007, you went to East Timor, and then in May 2009, you went to Afghanistan. I'll leave it over to you to tell me the story of Afghanistan.
No worries. I deployed in with the First Battalion, Australian Regimen, which is an infantry unit, to Afghanistan in May 2009. I was a marksman in the Operational Mentor Liaison team, which is the training team. And I was just turned 21, so quite young. Went over, it was like nothing I've ever seen before. It's not all desert. Like everyone thinks Afghanistan is just this big desert, and it wasn't like that at all. There was parts that were, but majority of where everyone lived was in this like green kind of belt where wherever the water was luscious, and that's where everyone lived. I was in a patrol base called Patrol Base Cutis, which had a small number of Australians and a large number of Afghan National Army soldiers. And our job was to go out and teach them how to patrol properly and how to fight. And it was very interesting, and it was something that that kind of leadership that we had to take there is something that stuck with me forever. In my first, few months, a very close friend of mine, Ben Renato, was killed in action by an improvised explosive device. Paul Warren, in the same blast, lost his leg, and they were medevaced. He was medevaced, and Ben was sent back to Turrencout, which is the main base. At that main base, I flew back from the patrol base to help out with the ramp ceremony, and I didn't really understand how to feel, or I knew he died, but I haven't had death around me much before, so I didn't really understand it. So when I found out he was killed, I accepted it, but didn't really affect me, and it affected a lot of other people. I didn't really understand it until I went back, and then I saw this big white Connex that was the freezer that he was in, and his face was out the front. Right then and there, I turned into a mess. I didn't know what came over me, couldn't control it. And it was a very unique kind of feeling. Went and spoke to my mum on the phone, couldn't talk. She knew what happened because it was sent back to Australia that there's been an Australian killed. And we pretty much got told, you need to get ready for the ramp ceremony. So we were all pairing up to carry the coffin. I'm not very tall, so I couldn't pair with someone. So they decided that I'd read the eulogy. And I walked up, I couldn't read it. Every time I read it, I'd cry. Walked up on stage, and I looked down. I saw all these high-ranking officers and departmental people and DFAT representatives, and all of his mates were out in the sun. And I was like, okay, these aren't my people. And I read it. I read it well. I swore through it. Got in trouble for swearing, and then we put my mate on a plane and sent him back to Australia. And then the next day, we were told, go back out and continue your job, which was quite unique because you just have to swallow all the trauma and your feeling and go back out. And went back out, got into an engagement. About a month or so later, I shot someone and killed them, and which was kind of a non-event thing for me. But that kind of set me up for what happened next. And what happened next was a couple of days later, we were on a patrol in the same area where this happened, and I had the long rifle, so a long marksman rifle SR-25, and we're walking across this area where there was an aqueduct, which is about a metre long. It's an irrigation system, could be anywhere from a foot deep to 2 meters deep, and everyone was jumping across. And as I went to jump across, I was one of the last people to do it. I rocked forward, not very tall, so rocked forward, and as I rocked back, an explosion went off. A bomb detonated and threw me back. And I had my medic jump through flames and dust to grab me and pull me back and check me out. And I was, I was okay. Like, I wasn't bleeding much. I was fine. But I needed to be medically evacuated, which I was. And I went back to TK. Couldn't hear in my right ear. I lost a lot of my memory. I just thought it was a concussion. Couldn't see properly. Everything was dizzy. Went back to TK. There was an ENT specialist from who was Dutch, and they said you need to go back to the main base, which was in Dubai, to get seen. And went back there, and they're like, "There's no way you're going back into theatre." I'm still deaf in my right ear, and I started, 21. I was a troublemaker, right? So I wasn't like a good patient. So I get back to Australia, and I'm causing a bit of trouble. I'm going out drinking a lot. I'm fighting in town, doing what 21-year-olds kind of do, and I started going unconscious. Started unconscious, waking up in hospital. Jenna, my wife, she was like looking up. She was my just friend then, wife now. And I got a scan and had a bleed on my brain.
Okay.
So from there, it was pretty crazy. Got some scarring in my brain. And then from there, I just went on this spiral of pretty poor mental health, and pretty close to being etched on my name etched on the wall memorial.
Yeah, it's all right. We got a lot.
So it's a small
unpack.
snapshot of
Yeah,
of
a
that.
lot to unpack on that.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to losing your friend over there, can anything, or do they prepare you for that in any way, shape, or form?
No, but they don't prepare for it. I don't know what they do now. Well, I do, and it's still not great. They don't prepare you for losing a friend, let alone anything else you do. Like someone dies or gets injured, you're just a number, and you get moved on very quickly. And like when I got blown up, when I was back, they were already planning how to get rid of me. So it's like when you're in, you're a guest. When you're out, you're a pest, and there is no kind of coming to terms with what happens overseas. You just kind of, it happens, and then that's what happens. And beforehand, they're like, yeah, it's dangerous, and then that's about as much training as you got.
Yeah. Okay. And the trouble is the ongoing damage that they cause when they do sort of that pest mentality is it's almost as bad as the initial injuries.
Oh, definitely. I think because it's your tribe and your family, and then the door opens, you're in the tribe. When the door closes, you're out of the tribe.
Yeah.
I think you lose your identity, and you lose the family network, the brotherhood, the tribe, and then you're out, and you've got to navigate, negotiate, and deal with the world, and without your support and family network.
Did you want to go back?
I'd go back now. If they, absolutely. The best time of my life was surrounded by my peers, my friends, the people that I call brother, and I'd absolutely, I would have gone back that day, and I even tried to bluff my way to be like, oh no, I can hear and I can do this and everything's fine, and they're like, mate, your eardrum doesn't react to sound.
Yeah.
We can see it. And I'm like, no, it'll be fine. We'll be okay. And I would have went back in a heartbeat. My greatest mental instability and mental health challenge was feeling that I let my friends down.
Absolutely.
Wasn't about getting blown up. Wasn't about shooting someone. It was about I let my people down.
Yeah. Whereas the reality to the Defence Force is you are so easily replaced.
Oh, so easy. Yeah, and you think you're not.
Yeah.
But the day that I was blown up, 2 days later, they had someone in my spot sleeping in my bed, right? So, whilst defence can easily maneuver you that way, the brotherhood is thick, and we fought together, we bled together, we saw great leaders and poor leaders, all kind of wrapped up into one.
What's a great leader versus a poor leader in your opinion?
A great leader is mindful and thinks. A poor leader is chasing a medal, or doing things that they wouldn't do themselves. And I've got a great example. And the person that did this now doesn't talk to me anymore. But I started talking about it, on podcasts and on TV and things like that. But when my first patrol I went on, there was a feature called the Sphinx feature, and it was a mountain, and there was always IEDs up there. And so we were walking around the backside of it, and there was our first patrol, the first patrol that we've kind of been on, and they went, we think there's an IED, we think there's an improvised explosive device bomb just over there. And they gave me a Garrett wand. Now, a Garrett wand is a small handheld metal detector that they used to use at airports, and security uses it at different places. They gave me that and said, can you go check to see if there's a bomb on the ground? Now, I did it. It was wrong. And they all quickly walked down the hill and, were hiding. But I'm not a bomb tech. I'm not an engineer. That's actually not designed to do that. It was designed for if we came across people in a checkpoint that we needed to search to make sure they didn't have any weapons or anything on them. And I was crouching down, trying to wave it an inch above the ground to see if there was any metal that could be an IED. I could have stood on it. I could have whatever. That's poor leadership.
Yeah.
That person put me in unnecessary danger with an unnecessary risk. They wouldn't have done it themselves, but they got me to do it because as a private soldier, I'm much more expendable than maybe the captain was.
Yeah. Again, that comes down to that moral injury kind of thing that causes, which is a thing I harp on a lot. But leaders have to understand how important moral injury is to people, and it's huge in first responders and defence.
Oh, absolutely. Whether you're on a combat operation in the Middle East, or you're in an ambulance in Townsville, or you're in the police in Bankstown, the same level of moral injury, the same thought processes and trauma we all go through. And to be honest, ambos and police go through it every day, a lot more. We go through a big deal in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You and your colleagues go through a big deal over a long period of time. And then they wonder what happens at the end when people have burnout, have the post-traumatic stress disorder, all the things that are associated with seeing unnormal carnage that you're not prepared for. Because you can't prepare. It doesn't matter how many movies you watch, how many training scenarios you do. The first time you pull a child out of a car, that then stays with you for life. The smell, the feel, the facial expressions, all that will live with you forever. And I have a thing now with my job as a politician. I will not say or do anything that I won't do myself. I will not push people. And if there's an issue or a mistake that gets done inside my office, guess who did it? Me. My staff are brilliant, but it's my responsibility of what happens here. And I think we've lost leadership with some of my colleagues, but we've definitely lost leadership within emergency services and military at the highest levels, because they want to be the politicians rather than the people that need to be standing up and fighting for our people.
Yeah, I think that's a big understanding from people on the ground is that once you reach past that, X level, then you are a quasi-politician, regardless of what your position is.
Well, yeah, because it's up and out, right? So it's either you stay, you get promoted, or you go out.
Yeah.
So you need to be towing some sort of line. I never towed a line as a soldier, and that's probably why I stayed a private soldier. As a politician now, I don't have to tow the line, because I get to draw the line. So it's tough because when you have senior leadership that are bad, then your leadership underneath it have to lean into that because they also, if they don't, they're out,
Yeah.
right? So, and it's hard to change it because the people that get promoted up that greasy pole are normally the people that the bad leaders, if you have bad leaders, see themselves in or see someone that will do what they say.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the roll on continues through and through, and that's where cultural change is so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to. You have to have. I think that cultural change doesn't. It starts at the top, gets implemented in the middle, and then rolls out down the bottom. But if the top and the middle aren't on the same page or doing the wrong thing, then when it rolls out, it gets rolled out poorly, or the messages get skewed.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the IED, was that remotely set off, or was it something? Do we think it was pressure, or like how do you think that was set off? The one that got you?
Remote, because they found the person's like where they were sitting, like a mat and some food, and they tried to light it on fire like when they left to try and disguise their stuff.
Okay.
That they were there. So yeah, I think they're waiting for me.
Yeah.
I was pretty noticeable with a long rifle and a big pack, and I think I was the target, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've come back to Australia. You've obviously got all these feelings, as you mentioned. You've got your guilt. You've got your. You've obviously got. Were you in pain? Physical pain?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yep. I had pain in my belly, pain in my head. I had headaches, continual headaches, and then I had like. It's a hard thing to but as soon as I couldn't hear, it felt like I had pain over the side, even though I didn't have, like there was no reason for the pain. It was more just like my mind was trying to use something as to why I can't hear now, because it's not like, so Paul, my mate, he gets phantom pain in his leg, and he gets, shooting pain down to his foot that he doesn't have no more. And it's not like that, but it's sort of like my mind's giving an excuse to why I was in pain.
Yeah. Yeah, the neuralgia, I think they call that, is it's real pain. Even if it's not a real physical pain, it's a real mental pain. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how were you looked after when you got back, physically and mentally? Were you looked after mentally, or was it all concentrating on the easy stuff, which is the physical stuff?
I probably, I don't think I was looked after well, but I also wasn't a good patient. So there's a little bit of responsibility, probably a fair bit of responsibility on myself. Because I didn't see myself in the person that was trying to help me. So, whether it was the mental health side, just go through breathing. I was like, oh, thanks, genius. Like, I didn't think of that myself. Like, it wasn't, or take more medication. I don't want to take medication. Yeah. And that happened for years. Like, here, take this pill, and that pill will help you. And the only time I took some medication, I ended up getting sinus bradycardia. So my heart rate was at like 31 beats per minute.
Yeah.
And I was feeling sick and lightheaded. And then the doctor was like, oh, just up your dose. And I was like, that to me just doesn't seem like the best idea. So then I went and saw a different doctor with a specialty in it. And they're like, oh, no, you've got the 1 in 100th symptom. And I'm like, oh, great. And they're like, oh, let's change. And I said, let's not change. Let's just not take any medication. We'll just go through it this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the more involved you are in your own healing, the better it is. When you're told what to do, then you don't buy into it.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that there is times when you have that buy-in, and there's times when you're not ready but still need the buy-in, and you kind of need to succeed and fail through it in your own journey.
Absolutely.
That's the only way you really grow through it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There is no Bible as far as what works for everyone. Everyone's different. The same drug will have different effects on people. Psychiatry and all those neurosciences, there's so much trial and error to find what works for you.
Oh yeah. Also, I give speeches about mental well-being and suicide prevention and things like that a lot, and I always say that I'm not a clinician, therefore I won't give you advice. I will give you information, because what worked for me or what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you, vice versa, may not work for me. So my job is to tell you what I did and tell you where you can get help or the information to be able to go through this in your own journey, because I don't know. I'm not a clinician. Unless you are, then we really got to be careful about telling people, oh, well, you should take this medication or drink this or do X. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening in your life. Like that's why we have doctors, and they spend decades perfecting their skill. My job is to normalize that it's okay not to be okay, and normalize that it's okay to speak up, and tell you that if you go into a shell and don't speak to anyone, the only person you're hurting is yourself and your family.
When did you know you were hurting yourself?
Probably several years after.
Yep.
Like because I didn't mind going out and getting into a scrap in town when I was in the army. So when I got back, that was pretty normal for me. When I couldn't remember, and I just thought it would come back, like I thought my long-term memory was going to come back. Probably, and even drinking. Yeah, I was drinking too much, but I didn't see it as a problem. It was probably several years later, around the 2012 time, when it kind of hit me with like a ton of bricks, and I was at the rock bottom, where I kind of had to pick a crossroad. It's either, I was smoking 2 packets a day as well, and I made the decision I wasn't going to smoke again, and then I never smoked again. So I don't have an addictive personality or anything like that, but I'm very comfortable of going into a dark. I was comfortable going into a dark hole and being comfortable. Yeah. So I had to hit a rock before I decided that this was the crossroad.
Yeah. You had the girlfriend at the time, who's now your wife, but she.
Yeah.
How did she cope with you? Because I know it's their journey. It's not just our journey. It's their journey as well.
Mm. I think she saw potential of what I could do when I put my mind to something. It was on her at a very young age to be my full-time carer, and then she kind of pushed me into the direction of you have to find something better and more meaning in your life. And my thing is meaningful employment, meaningful engagement, but it has to be meaningful, and that's what pushed me into doing suicide prevention and mental well-being. And I remember I knew that when I was giving speeches to mine workers or teaching mental health first aid, I knew that it was just as beneficial to me as it was for that young tradie whose friend died in the mine, or that young woman who's been bullied in blah. Like, so it was just as therapeutic for me.
Oh, 100%. That's why I do this podcast, because I get a lot out of it, as well as hopefully, other people picking up on things. I think if you don't do things that are meaningful to you, then you're just going through the motions.
Oh, correct. And I use the post-traumatic growth that I've gone through now to help me in everyday life. So, yep, bad stuff's going to happen in your life, my life, going to happen in everyone's life. It's just the degree of how it affects you. Because if you saw a car crash or you're in a car crash, that could affect you a lot more than a person that may have lost a limb in a traumatic event, or vice versa. It's your depth. It's not my depth's not the same as yours. Our depths are different. And so when you grow from it, it's post-traumatic growth. And when you grow the other side, you use all the real bad stuff in your life now to help you go in the right direction. So when I give speeches in Parliament and there's 151 of the nation's leaders and the Prime Minister's yelling something at me because he's a horrible person. He is. Um, the I don't get nervous. I don't get upset. There's no one in there that's going to make me angry. No one's going to die today. And I leave it at that. When a lot of the others build up all this emotion and anger, and then they spit stuff that's vile, or they get overwhelmed, or they react, I use the bad stuff to prepare me now that I can look at a prime minister and smile and disagree, and also I can stand next to a prime minister and talk about my own mental health, mental illness, and my own injuries. That hopefully that someone can go, oh, well, if they can stand next to a prime minister or in parliament and say they have this, then I feel comfortable in my workplace to be able to go, I also have a mental illness or bad mental health days, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, and nobody has good mental health all the time.
No, I think mental health is like physical health. So we all have it. Everyone in the world has mental health, just like we have physical health. Some of us have mental illness, just like some people might have a disability. And we're not defined by our injuries or illnesses, we're defined by our actions. But you'll either have really good physical health, really good mental health, or you can have poor on either side.
Absolutely. One of the things I've been studying moral injury a lot, and one of the common outcomes of it for people who are morally injured or morally betrayed is advocacy, and advocacy becomes a strong pillar in their life. So, and it seems like that's what happened with you as well. You don't want people to go through what you went through when it can be helped.
Oh, of course. And I think that there'll be the next generation, or the older generation did it and I saw it. I get to do it for the next one. If you can stop what say I or you went through for the next group, then hopefully that changes, how we do business. I remember doing things when I was 21 in Afghanistan that you'd be thinking now, well, if I was overseeing that person who told them to do that, I would sack them because it's not the right thing. Or when you get blown up and you come back and you say you get diagnosed with mental illness and other injuries, and then you go, oh, we'll just kick them out. That's bad, right? Like, so we're creating these bad issues by allowing that to happen. And advocacy with solutions, not advocacy with just the problem, is the way to do it.
Absolutely. So when you got involved quite heavily in the Invictus Games, tell us about that one.
Yeah, Invictus Games 2014, I was asked to go over and compete and be an athlete. That's a very loose word, being an athlete. And I did powerlifting, and I ran a couple of events that not very well. I think I got 5th in the powerlifting, and I went and trained with the UK team. I saw people that had my injuries, worse injuries, different injuries. So then we kind of thought, oh, it's not just us. And the UK, Netherlands, and the US have a lot more complex injuries than we were seeing at that stage. And I met Prince Harry a few times, drunk beer with and smoked cigars with Prince Harry and David Grohl from the Foo Fighters, which was cool. I wanted to, and this was a time when Invictus Games in Australia, no one wanted a bar of it. So RSL New South Wales funded it. The government couldn't have cared less, and no one really wanted to touch it. Fast forward from 14 to 16, went to Orlando. I was the coach for wheelchair rugby, and I also lifted into powerlifting. Once again, no one really cared about it. No one really wanted to touch it. Saw all the other nations where we had that mutual learnt kind of experiences where we all kind of just drifted together. Yeah. Orlando was more of a production because ESPN ran it.
Okay.
So it was very staged, very production-y like. Took away a little bit from the wounded, injured, and ill. And then when Australia got whiff of, you get on the world stage and make money and all this from it, then Australia started to bid for it. I saw the best in veterans and the worst in veterans during this process. I saw it help a lot, and then I saw a lot of people try and help themselves through it, like as in to grow their own platforms and be superstars, which is fine. Everyone's different, but if you're a if you're a if you're a dickhead when you're in, you're a super dickhead when you're out. So, and that's what I was seeing. I was seeing people there for the wrong reasons. I saw RSLs fighting over it, people fighting to be in charge. Darren McManus Smith, who put it all together, they were treating him really bad to push him out to get, the different executives in, and then the government now wanting to be involved because of the profile that it brought to the nation, and it really, really left a sour taste in my mouth. And I think that now, even with Invictus Australia, they're trying to bring it back to where it was, but there's mistakes that have been made. The athletes that went over or did the Australian one, they all got the Australian sports medal. And what my question was, I don't need any more medals. I have enough medals. But my question was, well, what about all the other people that went? They said, oh no, it's just for that group. And well, that young kid got injured at a very young age, who was just getting back onto the right path. Now thinks that his service and his part and his bit isn't worth it, and the governments don't recognise that. You need to give it to everyone. Yeah. And we're not Olympians. We don't train our whole lives for this. We've been wounded, injured, and ill from our service, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to compete and grow through the Invictus Games. You can't separate people and say one did better or are better than the next or the others. So that's still a touch point, still a sticking point there.
Yeah, it's not even. I think the competition is not the point of the games.
No, if it was about competition, then they would take just the best athletes.
Yeah.
They take the people that would get the most from it, that would represent well, but also develop and grow from it. And we've seen people do that. But I also have, and this shouldn't sound complicated, but if you send someone on a tier 1 event, then what happens next? They fall. So you have to have, I think it's about 5 tiers. So you have local, what is it? What do? You have local, regional, state, state, national, international. Yep. So 5 tiers. So you do your competing locally. So you're building up your skills, but also you're learning on how competition works, the failure, the success. Then you go out and you do a bit more in regional kind of stuff. Then your state-based representation, or even just being involved, national and then international. Because if you go from 0 to the highest, you fall just as quick. You have to step up and then you have to step down. And I thought that was something that people would have understood. But when I tried to tell them, it didn't work. And I saw people that competed in the Invictus Games end up in hospitals after, mentally drained and unwell. And it's the same thing. When you're in, you're a guest. When you're out, you're a pest. So they need to be better. And I think the Australian Invictus team will be better. I just think that governments need to understand that we're not looking at the Olympic Games team or the Paralympic Games team, the people that have trained their whole lives and have all the best supports around them and do all the camps together. We're looking at wounded and injured and ill veterans and some Defence Force still serving that are athletes in their own right, but also they're there to grow and develop, and after hopefully teach and grow someone else to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more you politicise anything like that, the further away from the initial, what it means is lost.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. So in 2018, you were awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia. Was that a surprise?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a surprise. And before that, I was the Queensland Young Australian of the Year, and that was a surprise. So I got nominated to be the Queensland for the Queensland Young Australian of the Year award, and you get a certificate, and then they go, "Oh, okay, you've made the short list. Come to Brisbane." And I get to Brisbane, and I'm 30 at the time, yeah, and I'm there with my brother. We're we went to the pub beforehand. We're going out to the pub after. Like I'm taking it as serious as a possibly. No, I wasn't really. I wasn't taking it serious at all. Like I thought it was a bit of a bit of a G up. And so you go on stage, you get given a certificate, and you walk off. And then they said my name again, and I was kind of like looking around. Turns out I won, so I had to go on stage and then give a speech, which I didn't prepare for. So I do this, and I'm like, oh, geez, now what? Now I've got like, I don't know, I think it's 4 months or 5 months, maybe a bit longer. And then you go to Canberra. I get to Canberra. I'm 30. I still think I'm 30. And so we get this app on our phone, and you can communicate with all the other kind of recipients from all the other states and territories. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. No one was talking to each other. It was really weird. It's not really a competition, but it sort of is. And everyone's kind of like doing their own thing. So I sent a message, said, all right, there's a bar downstairs. Let's all go there in an hour. We'll all catch up, talk to each other, and, go through the motions. And there were, the first message I got was, yeah, can I bring my mum? I'm only 16. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm 30. Like I'm double your age. I thought everyone was my age, but turns out I was the last year you could be considered in the Young Australian of the Year awards. And so that was a kind of eye opener. And then I think it was a few months after that I got a letter in the mail from the Governor General about the Medal of the Order of Australia, and you're not allowed to tell anyone because they like, where you've been nominated for this, and then this is why, and we're going to go out and do our own research, but if everything comes back fine, are you cool with getting it? Kind of thing. And I was like, okay. And then that's it for 6 months, and you don't tell anyone for 6 months.
Yeah. Do you kind of forget about it?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time. It's
when you when did you actually leave the army?
2012.
Okay, and that's when you got into the Invictus Games and all that sort of thing. Why do you think you were nominated for Young Australian, or more importantly, how do you think you were noticed? Because there's a lot of people that do a lot of things that are bloody amazing in our state and in our country. Is it the case of you have to be doing something that's noticed?
No. I think there's plenty of people that get noticed, and people wouldn't know how to do it or to do it. So if I saw someone that's just kicking goals and doing great, I could whip together 5 other people that are also noticing it. Then we could put a nomination in. So because it has to be a few, you can't just be you. It has to be a few different people. It's not normally just community members. There normally has to be someone, or a leader of a group, or so if you were whatever volunteering, maybe the CEO would write you up, or what I've noticed is when I've helped with recommendations for people, whether it's the Young Australian of the Year or the Australian of the Year Awards, or the Australia Day Awards, it's the people that are also in the nominations are normally a little bit removed from the person. So they might be a person that dedicates all their time to teaching someone, or doing volunteering first aid, or whatever the case may be, or develop something. And the person that might write them up might be the head of volunteering Queensland or Australia, or like it's not normally the peer-to-peer. It's normally something a bit extended. You don't know who nominates you, so a part of the rule is you're not allowed. They're not allowed to tell me. But you need because when I've done it for people, you need about 5 people to be able to support it. And I think so you get the people that like, if you become a prime minister, you get given X award because every prime minister got X award. if you're a mayor, every mayor got given X award. Having a Medal of the Order of Australia, that an OAM, that's the lowest award, but it's normally the Community Service Award. So it's the people that do the community service, and then it goes up from
Which
there.
is
If you know what I mean.
backwards, isn't it? It is so backwards.
It's so backwards, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's So I think the people that notice that you're doing it maybe are people that understand the honours and awards system to do it, rather than your peer group. If you're going above and beyond, because if you go above and beyond, your boss will give you a certificate of appreciation. I think it's outside of paid work, that kind of stuff, and it's well, that's what I think. I don't really know. All I know is I see lots of senior officers get given awards and medals because of that's their predecessor did.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
I mean, I know I get the shits when, Father of the Year goes to a professional sports person instead of the dad that adopts or fosters 15 kids a year and, stuff like that. I think that a lot of those awards are lost to the punters, the average Joe Blow.
I know a dad that's a single dad with 7 kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a Father of the Year. Not a celebrity, because to be honest, they're probably not. Like it'd be like, say, if someone rang me up and said, "Oh, Phil, you're in contention for Father of the Year," I'd be like, probably shouldn't be because I'm away so much, and my wife should probably be in contention of Father of the Year, not me. And I don't like people getting stuff because it's their job. I don't like people if you get paid to do a job, that doesn't mean you should just get a medal because it's your job. You got to do something or an award or whatever the case. You got to be outside growing, doing something, right?
Yeah.
Something that's what I think. Anyway.
Totally agree. All right, so we're going to skip ahead because we've only got a couple of minutes left. When did you start getting involved in a political sense?
You may be surprised, but I didn't grow up as a politician. I know you're probably thinking, thought you did. I didn't. I was a member of the Liberal National Party when I was in the army, because they were the ones that supported us. I had no idea what it was though. Like I didn't know. I got tapped on the shoulder after I got the Queensland Young Australian of the Year award, and they were like, "Oh, these people said, 'Oh, have you ever thought about politics?' And I said, 'Oh yeah, I could be the mayor one day.' And they said, 'Okay, what do you like?' And I like Veterans Affairs, Indigenous Affairs, Border Security, Regional Rural Australia, all this stuff."
So you'll
And
keep
they're
our
like,
city safe.
Cool. They're like, that's not what the mayor does. What about federal politics? And I was just like, sure. They go, what about the seat of Herbert? I didn't even know what that was. So I was like, yeah, it sounds great. Found out, got pre-selected, ran against the former Labor member here. I won. When I won, I didn't even know there was a Senate. This is how politically naive I was. I didn't know there was a Senate. To be honest, I still don't know what they really do, but anyway, that's up for them. I wasn't born into it. I fell into it, and I think because I fell into it, I kind of I see it differently. Like I don't think that a political party owns me.
Yeah.
The people own me. My job is to be the people's voice, the Townsville's voice in Canberra, not Canberra's voice in Townsville. For the first year, I didn't even know where the toilets were. Like I knew where my office was and where the chamber was, and that was about it. There is no mentoring. There is no help. You're on your own, and people expect you to know everything, and you don't. It takes a long time. I thought the Prime Minister could sack me. I thought the Prime Minister was my boss. Turns out he's not. He's just the captain of the football team. And I can do whatever I want. Yeah. The people of Townsville are my boss, not the captain of the team. So when I started figuring that out, that's when I started going, oh, okay, now I can really push this envelope, because you can't take my birthday away. you're not in charge of me. And politics was a turbulent time, but it also I wasn't born into it. It's not something that I ever aspired to be. I thought I thought I could be a counsellor, and everything I liked was in the federal sphere. And yeah, it's taken a while to kind of to really go, okay, this is something that I can do. And I can do differently, and we can change the face and the space of politicians, because people don't like politicians, and I know why, because I don't like them either. So you have to be different to be able to bring people with you and go, this is how we're going to do things differently. We're going to be transparent. We're going to be honest. You ask a question, you'll get the honest answer. You don't like it, cool. Let's disagree in the right way.
Yeah. I think this is this is another episode that, we can get into politics, but I want to talk about the trauma of politics and how the trauma, or it's a vicious game. How do you deal with it in cohesion with your PTSD and your pre-existing injuries?
There's nothing in politics that affects me in any capacity where I have any triggers that would prevent me from or would have me kind of get upset or kind of recluse or anything like that. The only thing that will push or comes close to it is when another veteran dies by suicide. I take it as a personal failure of mine and a personal failure of the government and the parliament. So yep, I get it's not my fault that it happened, but it is a failure because we haven't done enough. Other than that specific, then Parliament is just another day ending in Y, and I'm not. They can't take my birthday. My job is to fight for our people.
What about your family? It can be harder to be a family member seeing somebody getting abused, and the vitriol that goes on. How do they deal with it?
I've been pretty fortunate in Townsville. I don't get abused. I don't get yelled at. There's people that don't like me, and that's fine. But there's no abuse or anything like that. They've seen some nastiness come from out of town, and they deal with it like any way that you'd think that your spouse or your child would see someone having a go at their dad or their partner. So I insulate them from that. I try not to let them or bring it home with me. But in Townsville, I've seen politicians get yelled at. I've seen it in the streets. Like and whilst I have a little chuckle because I'm like, maybe if they were a bit better, this wouldn't happen, or maybe if they really stood up and fought for what they said they would, this wouldn't happen. But I've been very lucky to have people respect the family boundary with me. Like if I've got my kids, they don't come over and try and debate a topic. But I always make time for them if they came over and said, I'd like to talk to you about the decision you made or something you voted on or a speech you gave. But they've been people in Townsville. I think they can smell authenticity and they can see it in someone. And I try and be as real as I can. And we've been very lucky to have the support of the community. Even people that don't vote my way and hate my side of politics are pretty cool with me.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good with me, and I like that because I want to be good with them too. Like if you drive past my office, it doesn't have the LMP on the outside; it's got a crest because I'm the federal member for everyone. I don't care how you vote. You want to vote for the Greens? Yep, go for it. You don't want to vote and you want a donkey? Go for it. I don't care how you vote. I'm your federal member for as long as I'm here. And my job is to listen, work, and deliver for all of you, not just the political party people. It's for everyone. I know that Brisbane and Canberra hate that. They hate my view on it. They want me to have LMP on everything and walk around with it tattooed on my arm, but I don't, because my job is I'm a part of a team, which is the Liberal National Party. But my job is to be the best federal member for everyone.
Yeah, I think we are moving more towards the American divide, and that's not a healthy thing.
No, we're no other country, we're Australian, and we need to have Australian laws that benefit us, and we need to have policies that benefit us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Phil. Well, time is up, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing your story. One last question. Would you want your kids to join the Defence Force right now?
I had this chat with someone yesterday. I got 2 girls, 6 and 4. I would. And the reason I would is because it's a great career. It's a great opportunity to serve your nation. Our nation does a lot for us, and it's a good way to give back. I'd join again if I could, to be honest. Would I be wanting to kiss my child on the forehead and send them off to war? No, I don't think any parent would. But I'm also a realist and understand how the world works. So, if they would like to join the ADF, then they should do it. If they want to be a paramedic, they should do it. If they want to be a police officer, they should do it. A fiery, they should do it. I missed out fireys before. Someone's going to listen to this and give me a hard time.
They're asleep. They don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I would. My job is to make my kids grow up resilient, strong, thoughtful, mindful, and if that benefits the ADF, then and they want to do it, then I'd support them.
Yeah. If you get the opportunity to be the Defence Minister, that's something you'd grab. You're the Shadow Minister for Defence at the moment. That's something that I imagine would be a massive thing for you.
Yeah, it's there's a old saying in politics, when the leader calls you and offers you a job, you don't say no. So if the leader called me and said, I want you to be the Minister for Aged Care, I'd say, yep, I'd love to. I'd be honoured to. So I would. I think defence, veterans affairs, defence industry, anywhere around that, I think I would love to do it. But if the leader called and we got a new Prime Minister Dutton called me and said, thank you for your work in opposition as a Shadow Minister, but we're going in a different direction, you're going to the backbench, I'd say, sure. Yeah. My job is, my first and foremost job is to represent the people of Townsville, not ministries, not anything else.
Well, mate, if I have my way, you may be offered the Federal Ministry for First Response personnel, because I believe we need federal oversight for how we're looked after. We're all state employed, but there's more of us than veterans, and we need better help from better oversight and leadership from a federal capacity. So that's where my advocacy goes. And hopefully one day we can have a conversation about that.
Yeah, pitch that to Duts. Ring him. We'll get his number and we'll call him. We'll be like, this is the idea.
Sounds good to me. All right, mate. Take care. How do people get hold of you if they want to?
So I manage all my own social media. So my Facebook is just Phillip Thompson. I think it's Phillip Thompson's MP serving our community. 472-52066 is the office number, or email phillip.thompson.mp@aph.gov.au. But if you hit me up on any of those platforms, you get me. So.
Good on you. All right, Phil. You take care, and I appreciate it, mate.
You too. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Call. If you like what we're about, please make sure you subscribe, and if you can leave a review, that would be appreciated. If you have feedback or suggestions for future guests, please contact me via my socials. Please share with your networks and help me expand my reach. It's a great privilege for people to share their stories and allow us to go beyond the call.